Welcome to our today's program of Place Review. You're with me, Faris Josombe, and joined by
Jacqueline Saidi.
As usual, we'll be taking you through some of the stories appearing in the Daily Times newspaper and the Nation newspaper, and I'll be taking you through the daily. Maybe you want to start?
Yes, on the front page of the Nation, AG clarifies Chilima's role. And this story has a subheadline, says dismissal of guard of honor, not delegated power. Part of the story, the Attorney General has clarified that Vice President Saulo Chilima's dismissal of a guard of honor as President Lazarus Chakwera left the country at dawn on Sunday does not qualify as delegated powers. AG Tabo Chakhakanyarenda's explanation follows a debate that ensued on various social media platforms, which saw some wondering why the president, who in June this year withheld delegated powers from the vice president pending a corruption probe, had assigned Chilima to dismiss the guard of honor at Kamuzu International Airport.
Okay, here on the front page of the Daily Times newspaper, the headline reads, House passes revised budget paged at 2.852 trillion kwacha. Part of the story reads, Parliament yesterday passed the revised 2.852 trillion kwacha, or 2022-2023 national budget on November 25th. Finance Minister Sostan Gwengwe presented the revised 2.85 trillion budget, up from the 2.84 trillion presented in February this year. Yesterday, lawmakers passed the financial plan with a single change to the parliament vote, which has gone up by 2.6 billion kwacha to cater for the next meeting of the August House.
Catholic bishops query Chakwera's authority. Part of the story, Catholic bishops have said President Lazarus Chakwera's lack of knowledge about Anti-Corruption Bureau Director General Martha Chizuma's arrest raises questions on who is in control of affairs of the country. In a statement released yesterday under the banner of Episcopal Conference of Malawi and signed by bishops from all the 7 dioceses, the bishops wondered how the president could not be aware of the arrest warrant of the important public officer. Part of the statement reads that the bishops cannot but join many Malawians who, in their disbelief, are wondering who is really in charge of affairs of this country. It baffles the bishops that all the operations involving the arrest of a high official in the government and involving a legitimate organ of the state like the police was happening without the people that ordinarily would be expected to know.
Moving on. The heading reads, Media urged to fight fake news. Part of the story reads, the Malawi Communications Regulatory Authority, MACRA, says journalists have a critical role to play in fighting fake news in the country. Speaking at a media workshop for journalists on fake news on Monday in Lilongwe, MACRA board chairperson Stanley Kaila said fake news manipulates democratic and election processes. He said it is worrisome that some people's reputation have been damaged through fake news on social media.
Judiciary staff refuse to return to work. Part of the story is striking judiciary support staff have refused to return to work while negotiations with the Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs over implementation of their conditions of service progress. In an interview last evening after meeting judiciary management led by Chief Justice Rizena Mzekomanda, Judiciary Members of Staff Union spokesperson Andy Haliwa said management requested them to resume work as they continue discussing with Treasury on their grievances. But he said when JAMSU leadership communicated the proposal to the staff, it was rejected, meaning that the industrial action, which has put the wheels of justice at a standstill, would continue.
Greenbelt intensifies maize cultivation drive. Part of the story is the Greenbelt Authority. GBA says it is on course to making Malawi the food basket of the Southern African Development Community region. Citing 100 hectares of land it is developing in Chikwawa district among the strategies being used to achieve its goals, GBA board chairperson Wester Kosam said through the initiative they also want to make Malawi an agricultural investment destination.
If you have any other story, maybe before we move to the business part.
Another one I'll take a district one. The headline leads Church challenges Zomba communities on GBV. Evangelical Lutheran Church in Malawi, Bishop Joseph Evumbwe has urged Zomba residents to play an active role in stemming the tide of gender-based violence. He made the remarks on Saturday in Zomba, where he led ELCM congregants in commemorating 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. The congregants marched from Eastern Region Police Headquarters to Zomba District Council, where they presented a petition to government officials asking them to scale up efforts against GBV and increase finance allocations at the same.
Forex shortage hits local firms. This is on the business part, and the subheadline rather says failing to import key raw materials. Part of the story, industry players say they are struggling to import key raw materials due to the worsening shortage of foreign exchange, which has forced some firms to suspend manufacturing and packaging activities. Speaking in separate interviews yesterday, Malawi Confederation of Chambers of Commerce and Industry and the National Working Group on Trade and Policy said the situation has put a huge strain on business operations.
Leeds agriculture subsector held as next big thing. Part of the story. Leeds Minister of Natural Resources Essen Hoang-Kakars has said the aquaculture subsector provides direct employment opportunities to over 70,000 people involved in fishing, mainly for commercial purposes in the country. He said this during the opening of the National Fisheries and Aquaculture Forum in Lilongwe. Nkaka said small-scale fishery contributes 95% to the total fish produced annually in the country, which is estimated at around 170,000 tons. This sector contributes significantly to the socio-economic development of the country, with an estimate of 4% of the country's gross domestic product.
Authorities tipped on boosting forex reserves. Part of the story, the World Bank says the Malawi government has an opportunity to implement measures that can boost foreign exchange reserves by enhancing private financial flows, especially foreign direct investment and remittances. The Bretton Woods Institution said this in the biannual Malawi Economic Monitor published last week. The bank said unlike most developing countries, in Malawi, aid inflows are still by far the most significant source of foreign exchange, which puts the country in a vulnerable state.
Tobacco output to jump to 170 mils kg. Part of the story is the Tobacco Commission has said it has registered tobacco growers who are expected to grow 170 million kilograms of the green gold this year. The Chief Executive Officer, Joseph Ejidante Malunga, told Times Business on the sidelines of the National Tobacco Conference that the expected tobacco output is 10 million kilograms, more than the 160 million kilograms which growers were registered to produce last year. Ejidante Malunga could, however, not indicate the amount demanded by international buyers, describing it as a competition issue which is not supposed to be disclosed.
On the world news, U.S.-Africa Leaders Summit starts today in Washington. U.S. President Joe Biden will from today host 50 African leaders in Washington, D.C. for the 2022 U.S.-Africa Leaders Summit that seeks to foster economic engagement, peace and security, and good governance, among others. A note posted on the U.S. Department of State website says the three-day summit demonstrates America's commitment to the continent and will underscore the importance of U.S.-Africa relations and cooperation on shared global priorities, including health and food security and the climate crisis.
deadly unless the forces airport to close in Peru. That's the headline. Part of the story leads an airport in Peru has been closed and 2 people have been killed in violent protest, authorities say. 50 police officers and workers were surrounded by demonstrators at the airport, the transport minister said in a statement. Protests over the impeachment of President Pedro Castillo have continued in the capital, Lima. Police fired tear gas canisters on Sunday to disperse demonstrators in the city. Peru's aviation body COPAC, part of the Ministry of Transport, said Andras Airport had been seriously affected since Saturday afternoon, experiencing attacks, vandalism and fires being started.
3 women shot dead in Italian cave. At least 3 women, including a friend of Italy's new Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, were killed yesterday when a man opened fire at a cave in Rome, injuring 4 other people. BBC reported that the victims and the others were meeting as part of a local bloc's residents' committee. BBC added that a suspect, 57, who reportedly has a history of disputes with some of the committee's board, is in custody. Meloni named her friend as Nicoletta Golisano.
Okay, we move on to the arts and culture segment. The headline reads, Consumer discusses 597 million kwacha in a blank media levy lithography. Part of the story leads Copyright Society of Malawi Consumer yesterday started discussing money to creativities from bank media levy and lithography, reproduction of documents and graphic material. Musicians started receiving their amounts yesterday through Arts Circle, with amounts for films and books to be distributed on December 19. According to a document dated December 9, 2022, the copyright body will disperse a total of 596.9 million kwacha for blank media levy in music between January and March 2022. Consumer has disbursed 97.8 million kwacha for 6,531 works to 1,244 beneficiaries, whereas in the period from April to September 2022, there is a rise as the copyright body has dispersed 340.3 million kwacha for 8,034 works to 2,302 beneficiaries.
Ministry decorates Kilimanjaro hikers. Part of the story, Minister of Tourism, Wildlife and Culture Michael Usi on Sunday presented medals to 19 local hikers who recently climbed the highest mountain in Africa, Kilimanjaro in Tanzania. Speaking during the commemoration of the International Mountains Day at the Malawi Defense Force Parachute Battalion in Salima, the minister hailed the 19 for putting Malawi on the map in the promotion of tourism.
The last one in the arts and culture segment, the headline leads Pico brings free Christmas carol concept. Part of the story leads with the world looking ahead to the festive season. Pico PLC, a property firm, has organized a carol show dubbed the Gateway End of the Year concert to be held at the Gateway Mall in Lilongwe on Saturday. The concert will feature performances from Kananyena's Place Team, Lilongwe Community Choir, Sea of Glass, United for Worship, and Salvation Army Brass Band. The company's head of property service, Elliot Jambo, said yesterday that their intention is to celebrate with the public during the festival season as a way of showing appreciation for their support.
Going straight to the back page, well done is the main headline, and the sub-headline, AU hails Malawi for successful games hosting. Part of the story, the African Union Sports Council has hailed Malawi for successfully hosting the Region 5 Youth Games, which concluded on Sunday in Lilongwe. AUSC Region 5 Chief Executive Officer Stanley Mutoya said this during a press conference to mark the end of the games on Sunday at Bingu National Stadium. He said the games were meant to develop and nurture athletes for the 2024 Paris Olympics. Montoya said they had laid Paris via Accra with stopover in Lilongwe Vision soon after the games in Lesotho, and the games in Malawi have kept that vision in course.
BNS fees hiked. Some airline needs 10 million to hire Bingu Stadium. There are two. Another one leads cost of maintenance high. Part of the story, Leeds government has hiked the airline fee for Bingu National Stadium from 4 million kwacha to a minimum of 10 million kwacha per day for private sector players intending to use the facility for sporting events. Thames Sports can reveal. Interestingly, churches pay 10 million kwacha to hold an event at the venue for a day, while sporting associations are dedicated 25% from gate collections gross. The development comes as BNS is expected to host the Airtel Top 8 Cup final between holders Nyasa Big Bullets and Mighty Mukulu Wanderers on Saturday.
Wolves of Zambia for Zone 6 volleyball. Part of the story, Wolves Volleyball Club, women's and ladies teams, men's and ladies teams are confident of making Malawi proud at the Confederation of Africa Volleyball Zone 6 Senior Clubs Championship in Lusaka, Zambia. The two teams are scheduled to leave the country today for the regional event that runs from tomorrow to December 22nd.
Minister draws possibly from Region 5 Games. Youth and Sports Minister Richard Banda has described the 2022 African Union Sports Council Region 5 Games as a huge success. The games officially ended at Bingu National Stadium Lilongwe on Sunday night and were the first big international multidisciplinary sports event to be held in the country. Going straight to the international sports, which is also the last part of the press review. Messi versus Modric. Part of the story, Lionel Messi and Luka Modric are two of the greatest soccer players to ever played in the World Cup, and now they face each other tonight as captains of their respective teams in a fight to make it to the World Cup final. Messi has scored and assisted in 3 different World Cup games, and no other player has ever done so on 4 separate occasions. Okay, maybe that's the last story. You can close.
Yes. This also marks the end of today's edition of Press Review. Remember, we only take you through some of the stories that are appearing in the papers, which are the Daily Times and the Nation. For you to get a full picture of what is appearing in the papers, you should feel free to get your own papers, of which both are going at 1,000 kwacha. In today's program, you were with me, Jacqueline Saidi, and my colleague,
Palace Chizombe.
Stay safe.